Many woodworking projects call for the use of brass hardware, knobs, latches, and of course hinges. And brass is great, it's decorative, it's attractive, it's pretty durable, but brass hardware of course comes with brass screws because you want the screws to match the hardware. The problem is when you drive in brass screws, it's really easy to snap them off. So here's the solution. First, drill a pilot hole. You should always drill a pilot hole no matter what kind of screw you're driving in, but particularly a brass screw. So you start with drilling a pilot hole. Okay, great, we got the pilot hole. But if you just take the brass screw and drive it in, what happens is, because the brass is so soft, look at that, it snaps right off. So imagine if you have a hinge and you go to drive in that last screw and it snaps off. Well, now what do? You got that screw shaft buried in the wood, you have to carve it out or something. It's a real mess. So here's the solution. Start again with a pilot hole, but then get a screw, a steel screw, that's the same diameter as the brass screw you want to drive in. So here's the brass screw. Now this screw is a little longer than we need, but you see the diameter and the screw thread, the thread counts are exactly the same. So what we're going to do is drive in, after drilling the pilot hole, drive in the steel screw first. And what you're doing, there's no fear of this snapping off because it's so strong. The steel screw is pretty strong. What you're doing, of course, is you're threading that hole. So this hole right now is threaded to accept the brass screw. So now you can drive it in without any fear of it snapping off. There you go, solid. So don't forget, anytime you're using brass screw, no matter what size the brass screw is, drill the pilot hole, drive in a steel screw that's the same size, back it out, then drive in the brass screw, and you won't have any fear of snapping it off. I just want to share a quick tip on hinges. Here's what most hinges look like, right? They come in various sizes, different materials. These happen to be brass hinges. You have small decorative hinges like this. You've got larger hinges you could use for a door or a large cabinet. And these are, again, this is a woodworking cabinet hinge. And they're typically known as butt hinges.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
Every hinge has basically the same parts. Most of them have a pin, which can be removable or not removable. And that holds together the two hinge leaves. These are called the hinge leaves. And then these are called the knuckles, these pieces that the pin goes through. Now, as you see, every butt hinge has the two leaves that come together. And the way it's typically installed, so like let's say we wanted to put the hinge between these two boards, right? So what you do is you put the hinge on there, you mark around it, you do the same thing for this hinge leaf on this side, then you cut out a mortise. A mortise is simply a little shallow recess. That's the thickness of the hinge leaf so that the hinge sits flush and you have a nice tight fit between the two pieces of wood you're joining together. Well, that's all fine and good, and there are several ways to cut mortises. You can do it by hand, you can use it with a router, whatever. But they also make, a lot of people don't know, they make a hinge called a non-mortise hinge or a no mortise hinge. And it's similar to any butt hinge, except if you look at it, it's only half the thickness because the two leaves, it still has the two leaves, but one fits within the other. It's kind of a cool design, right? So what that allows you to do, instead of having to mortise it, you can take these two pieces of wood, let's say we're going to join them together, and you could just put the hinge right in there, and you have essentially the same space you'd have for almost any other hinge. And so there's no reason to mortise it. So you just put it in place, you screw it one side, then you open this up and you attach it that side. Isn't that kind of cool? So next time you're building a project and you don't feel like cutting mortises, which can be kind of tedious, look for a no mortise hinge. If you enjoyed this video, please support us by liking and subscribing. Hey, thanks for watching.